This is Geeks and Suits, episode, is it 8?
I think, is it episode 8? I
think it's episode 8.
I don't know. We're going to call it episode 8. Yeah. It might be episode 9.
This is an audio-only podcast.
Just read the title when we
yeah, it'll say episode 8. And if you're subscribed to us on YouTube, which I'm pretty sure that only we are. Like, I'm pretty sure it's
we have 3 subscribers. One of them is you.
Yeah, one of them's me.
Are you one of them?
I think I'm one of them.
You one of them? Okay, I'm not one of them.
I guess since you made the account,
so we have one unique subscriber.
Okay, cool.
Whoever you are, we appreciate you a lot.
Thanks, bro, or sis, if you're a girl.
Sis.
Anyways, this is Geeks and Suits. This is as it was intended to be.
Yep,
it's the
only audio
version.
Yeah, we figured out an audio way to do it.
By putting it on YouTube.
Yeah, but we're putting it on YouTube.
And you know, we might be transitioning into more audio because it's so much easier to edit and /film.
It just stinks because...
Maybe we should have a special we wear suits every once in a while episode.
Yeah, I think
that's the one
that's
we're
what
actually
I'm thinking.
on.
Anyways, thank you for joining us. I'm Chase Gerber.
I'm Tyler Stutzman.
Yeah,
I didn't introduce you.
Chase Gerber here. We got a nice, fun-filled episode with you. Lots of things to talk about.
I'm Ben Gerber, and we're titling this episode The Brightest, Darkest Timeline, which is a callback to an earlier episode when we were talking about how Community, after Season 5, was canceled. But, lo and behold, news came in last week
at
that
the 11th hour. I mean, it was the day.
It was the day
that their contracts were the next day. Their contracts were done.
And
Community is back. I didn't say that. Community is back for a 6th season, and officially.
I want to point out right off the bat, Yahoo Screen saved it, which no one knew about until it did save Community.
No one knew it existed.
I didn't even know it. When it said Yahoo saved it, I'm like, how the hell did Yahoo
I remember
save
texting
it?
you. Telling you about it, and,
I remember,
and saying that I had just read up a little bit about it and how Yahoo Screen they had the ambitions of being in the same realm of Hulu, of Netflix, of Amazon Prime Instant Streaming. They wanted to be in the same sentence with these guys as far as streaming services, and I mean nobody knew about them until and then I actually that morning had looked at it for another reason because the new HBO show The Leftovers.
Yeah,
they were premiering their first episode of that for free on Yahoo Screen, and then 6 hours later, I saw that they saved Community. I was like, well, that's a big day for them.
That's a big way to announce the fact that you exist is by saying you bring back a show like that.
Hosting a new show that has a lot of buzz, and then bringing back a very popular show that also has a lot of fans.
That has a big cult following.
I remember it too. I was the first one. Joel McHale had tweeted something like
Season 6.
Season 6 or something, and I remember reading it and I'm thinking, wait a second.
Didn't you text us and say what does
you were
this mean?
guys, what's going on?
Guys, what's going on? And then you beat me to the punch. I looked it up on Google. I put Community Season 6 and nothing about Yahoo Screen jumped up. I didn't find anything when I first searched for it.
Yeah.
But I knew as soon as I saw them, I got to text these guys. If they do come back for Season 6, that would be awesome. And indeed it is happening. We are getting that 6th season.
I feel like
hopefully a movie also.
I think I saw someone mention this on the internet. Yahoo saving Greendale sounds like the plot of a Community episode.
Yeah, it really does. And one of those antics.
The way they've segued corporations like Subway lately into their plot lines and stuff is kind of... It sounds something that's actually not too odd for the show to be saved by.
Yeah.
Which I think is really ironic.
And I think one of the biggest things I'm looking forward to is, and I hope it's the first episode, but whatever they do, they have to make it good, where they just make fun of NBC like crazy.
That's what everybody's anticipating already.
Everyone wants
the first episode is just going to be pot shot after pot shot at NBC.
Oh, I mean, it's true.
It's what you'd expect. I mean, the first thing that got made fun of when Dan Harmon came back was Season 4. And there wasn't even hesitation.
He picked on it to no avail
and
that first episode.
It continued throughout this. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we see an entire season long just shot after shot at NBC.
I'd like subtle bashing, but
the
thing is, I don't want this to become Dan Harmon's bitter opera. Every episode he's picking on people who wronged him or things he think they didn't do right. Obviously the show picks on people a lot, but But it just I don't want to start watching the show and at the end I always have the taste of sour grapes in my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's funny a few times or whatever, but I'd like them to just continue the show and be about.
And I'm sure they will. I mean,
cool story
they know
that
what
they've
they're
created.
doing.
Oh yeah.
So
and I mean, this is no one's taking over. Harmon is at the helm.
yeah.
And Yahoo seems to be content to let them go wherever they want to. Because
Which
this
is
is
good.
this is like their flagship show now.
I
at this
really,
point.
from what I've seen too, just as far as like cast and writers, like a couple of the writers are gonna be are out just because they have other commitments now as far as like shows and stuff that
Other
they
shows
had
they've
signed
signed
on
on
to.
to.
Because I mean, the show was over; it was
Yeah.
dead. So
I mean,
I
You had
can't
to
blame
move
them. Can't
on to
blame them.
bigger and better. And
It-
it wasn't Gillian Jacobs about to be on a new show on HBO?
I think
she was about to come
was.
into Girls, wasn't she? She was gonna have a new role.
You're right. I think
Yeah.
she's on it anyways, but it's like a recurring thing.
It was-
It's
yeah, it
not
was gonna be
necessarily like a full time cast member
Right,
type situation.
but yeah,
But even
it
still,
even
she-
seemed like
she-
actors
yeah.
and actresses were gonna
And-
get new gigs.
And
And
speaking
the
of,
that's but
yeah, go ahead.
where I was going with that was there are a few actors that are going to be gone too, but it's none of the main ones. It's John Oliver, who's got his show on HBO
Yeah.
now, and I read he
I
will
can't-
not be back.
That's sad.
I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
can't
because
object.
His show is hilarious.
His show has been spot on. It's been some of the most incredible writing
It
I
has
have seen in a
completely
while.
revamped network news comedy shows.
Oh, yes,
I mean,
definitely.
everything that the Daily Show and the Colbert Report had been doing, he's now completely just like reinvigorated the life in
with
it.
And the
with
big
a
reason-
with a network that will let him say
whatever he wants.
Yeah,
And
that's the
and
big
it's
thing.
like he's now the edgiest news comedy, and it's
Right.
not even close.
And he doesn't use that edginess too much. Though.
No.
He just drops an F-bomb here and every once in a while.
Yeah, he doesn't do it
or
to
shows a pick. It's not
it's more with
overkill.
who he goes after as opposed
Yeah.
to what he says.
Yeah.
But then the other person who's not going to be back, or at least is not expected, he's not expected to be back in the same sense as John Oliver's like gone, but it's Jonathan Banks because he's going to be filming Better Call Saul.
Yeah, the
And-
first two
Yeah.
seasons already.
Yeah,
And fair enough.
And from what I had read there, it might be more like he'll get a send off.
Yeah, which
as
will be
opposed
nice.
to like
just like Troy.
kind of,
sort of,
yeah.
yeah.
Or
Obviously
just,
not
like,
as sympathetic.
They'll write him out in a way that it makes sense that he'll actually be there to be able to be written out, as opposed to
Right. John
where
Oliver,
John
who might
Oliver,
not be in
who,
it at all.
who just might not be in it at all, or Chevy Chase, who's just like F this, I'm
a
done.
hologram.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
kind of got a send off.
But we do-
They had a funeral. He
But we
passed
do-
around some of his semen.
We do have, but we do have all the main characters back. You know, the study group that is
Yes.
remaining. And I do remember reading. I don't know if
Greendale
there's
Five.
anything new on this. Is there a possibility Donald Glover returns? as
Nothing
Troy?
has been confirmed
There
or
was
denied.
talks.
I know
Yeah.
there was talk of it. I mean,
You're gonna
obviously,
pull your phone off the. Look out! Man.
obviously, we won't really know until more details are released.
You
But
can
it'd
hope.
be really
You can
nice
hope.
if we can hope.
It would be nice. I think if nothing else, if they do the movie, I think he'd come back.
Oh, I'm
for
sure
that.
he would. Yeah.
Did you
But-
happen to see there? I read.
They're
an
already,
article.
like, in
There's
development
already
for
talk
it.
that Sony is all for a movie at this point.
Yeah.
which
oh,
would
yeah.
which is going to be awesome if it does happen. I mean,
It
and
makes
that's
me-
the
it
perfect
Mission
ending we
accomplished.
need.
Is
We did it.
Is the name going to be 6 seasons in a movie, or
That
is
would
it
be
going to be
awesome.
Community the movie? Because I
Either
almost
one
feel
would
like
be
it has
fun.
to be 6 seasons in a movie.
Yeah,
It would be
that's
fitting.
true. It would be a very
or even
fitting.
6 seasons and the movie,
Mm-hmm.
just like to play into the fact that guys,
It's
it happened.
movie
It's
This is
the
it.
reality.
This is it.
We've been
Yeah.
talking about it all series long, and it finally happened, which would just be perfect for it.
It's amazing to me that was said as like a complete, almost throwaway joke back in season 2
Mm-hmm.
in the flashback episode when Abed was talking about the cape.
It was a random scene.
It was
It
a
wasn't
random scene.
It wasn't vital to any plot line of
Nope,
the
and
show
it just
at all.
gained steam, and it's the catalyst for where we're at now with Community.
Yeah.
It somehow got it to a
Mm-hmm.
5th season on NBC after the 4th season.
Sucked.
It was
And-
horrible
and
and
now-
then completely canceled at that
And
point.
now it's gotten them saved again, really.
Yeah.
And now it might actually fulfill the prophecy.
Yeah.
It's like
There's
that's
been so many ups and downs. I remember listening to a podcast with Danny
You're
Pudi.
cheating on us, Ben. Come on.
And he talked about how every day he went into work not knowing if he was actually going to work that day and act.
Mm-hmm.
He said, we just got so used to it that, if we got canceled, it was, well, that's too bad. But who knows what tomorrow's going to hold? Because honestly, how many times have they been canceled now?
That's the second
or at the
time?
very least on the
Three.
the chopping block. I want to say
Well, they've been on the chopping block just about every season, haven't they?
I'd
But
say
the amount of times
I'd
they've
say
actually gotten canceled.
season 2 to season 3 was the only time where it was like this show is definitely going to make it. Season 1 to season 2, it was iffy. Season 3 to season 4 was really looking bad because of the whole Chevy and Dan thing, and
Leaving,
then season 4 to season 5 was close because it was just the worst season, and then obviously it got canceled.
It did
so
get canceled.
It came closest to not being revived.
yeah.
Have you guys been reading this at all, too, that, I forget if it was Sony or Yahoo or a mix of both said they were interested in continuing the series after 6 seasons?
Yeah, see, and I'm not sure. I think they really have to tread lightly with that because so many
Scrubs,
perfect
Scrubs.
example. They took it one season too far when the main cast of characters
And
left.
And honestly, I think we can say, as all community fans, and for all community fans, we just went 6 seasons in a movie, and we will totally be fine for the
heck,
rest of our
Arrested
life. We don't need
Development's
it.
another one you could put in that category.
Yeah.
Because the 4th season just
When it got
not very
revived
good.
by Netflix, I mean, that
It
was
just-
such a loved show, and everyone was so excited when it came back.
And it was just okay.
I think it was so... Wasn't it so different the way it was done?
Well,
I haven't
it was
watched it.
it was formatted completely different. Like
The way it was presented.
every episode is like it revolves around a character, and like other characters show up and interact and everything, but it's not like before or like your typical sitcom where every single character is in each episode unless they are written out specifically for plotline purposes. It's like one episode would specifically revolve around Jason Bateman's character, and then like there'd be little drop-ins of one character or another where they were in for like a couple seconds,
Right.
sometimes for like a minute or two, but typically each episode revolved around one single character, and it just it progressed the story in an interesting way, but it wasn't the same.
I feel like that's something you can exclusively almost do with, like, dramas.
Yeah,
Focus
With
on certain
comedy, that
characters.
wouldn't
For
work.
with comedy...
it's tough.
Well,
It
with
was tough.
comedy, the characters they feed off one another.
They bounce
Yeah.
off each other. a lot.
and so
Because in
you can't
dramas,
really
you
do
focus
that.
a lot of times on one single person's
Yeah,
feelings or actions in one episode, and it doesn't translate.
it
well
just
with
didn't
comedy.
work as well. So
I think one of the big things that might depend on whether they do take it to beyond the movie is whether or not season 6 in the movie are good.
Yeah,
Yes.
obviously.
Whether or not, I mean, maybe
the reception.
Yeah, I mean, if the 6th season sucks and the movie sucks even more, then it'll be like, okay, just stop it. We don't.
We don't.
And
But you know,
yeah.
in Dan Harmon's hands, I really don't think community can really go wrong unless like everyone just starts leaving.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I really don't think with the cast of characters that they have that would happen unless they had just bigger and better things to move on, like Donald Glover.
Well, that's one thing. Like, I saw it on Reddit today or yesterday or something, and I'm gonna sneeze. So hold on.
Kazum type.
Woof. I saw on Reddit somebody posted a link talking about the show Party Down. Party Down is one of the funniest shows I've ever seen in my life. It lasted 2 seasons. It was on Stars. Adam Scott was in it. And
How young was he? Wasn't it?
this was like in 2009, 2010.
Oh, okay, that's not.
So
that
it was
long
around.
ago.
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 years ago. And Lizzie Kaplan was in it, and Martin Starr and Jane Lynch, and it had a really good cast of characters, and Jane Lynch had to leave the show after 1 season because she was on Glee, and she got
Right.
replaced by Megan Mullally. And then the second season, Adam Scott basically had to leave because he signed on for Parks and Rec at that point. And so eventually, because it was on Starz and because the ratings weren't high, despite the fact that it was a genius show, it got canceled because
I was about to say I didn't even know Starz had a TV show.
They do, and I mean they have some decent shows. I haven't watched Spartacus, but I've heard really good things about that show.
I've heard some weird things about that.
And there's at least one other show that I'm forgetting. I actually think Natalie Dormer or Dormer from
The Tudors.
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 I thought that's Showtime. You're right. That is Showtime.
That's
Showtime. That's my fault.
I know there is another Star show I've heard.
But that was a brilliant show that got canceled partially because of ratings, but partially because everybody just had so many other projects on network television or in movies, and they just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And you could see something happening like that to Community because it's
elevated all their careers at this point.
Yeah,
Alison Brie, Danny
Alison
Pudi,
Brie
Joel
is going to be everywhere now. Joel McHale is busy enough with The Soup and just stuff.
He's in movies too.
And he's in a fair amount of movies.
Jillian Jacobs,
Girls, is going to be, that could be
an
actual thing. I'm surprised that Danny Pudi's career hasn't taken off.
I am really too.
He produced a 30 for 30. He was involved.
Really?
He's more of like writer director type, other than Community.
I think he enjoys that.
Yvette Nicole Brown has been in
a lot of things.
She's been in a lot of things, but it's been like small parts.
Yeah.
But so she can work around. Like Community is easily her biggest role.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Chevy and Donald. They
Donald's
one had an established career that is never really going to change, and that's Chevy. And then Donald started
his could take
Childish
off,
and
his own TV show,
and it's just it takes away from it eventually.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It could be.
Jan Gomes just cranked one to left field.
We're watching the Indians, so if we react like
"Hey"
or "Good job" or
this
"Crap,"
is my favorite thing. It's time-sensitive information in a podcast.
Yeah.
It's the absolute best.
Hey, Nick Swisher hit a home run tonight, so I'm happy either way if we win or lose this game.
So,
anyways, I think we can transition now.
So basically, Community's back. Apparently,
they're
gonna start filming
they want to release them this fall.
They want to release by
and they're
September or October.
I heard they're not doing the Netflix thing either. Will they release all of them at once?
No, I had seen that too.
Which
that they were going to do week to week.
I think that's a good idea on Yahoo's
I think
part.
it is too because it keeps people coming back.
Yeah, I think for new original shows,
House of
Cards. That's an alright thing. Like House of Cards did it. Orange is the New Black.
For an established streaming service as well, that that people aren't coming there only for that content.
You know what they're
Yahoo
expecting.
Screen is fairly new. They need people coming back consistently for new things. And if they release Community week to week and have something coming out,
that's at least 13 weeks they'll be tuning in.
Yeah. So I think I'm okay with that strategy. I mean, I wish that we got them all at once, but
yeah, it's okay.
I don't mind having
to
to wait a week to week. Exactly. As long as there's no mid-season vacation or anything like that. I want 13 straight weeks of Community. Mm-hmm. I don't want 6 and then 2 months off and then 7.
Yeah.
No to that. Give it there and don't release them if they're not I don't want them to release them if they're not ready to do that.
Yeah.
Don't sacrifice needing to get it out by September if you've only got 6 episodes.
Deadlines only hurt movies and TV shows.
And
They've never done good things.
And they don't need a deadline for this now. It's coming back. It got saved late.
It's already pretty much got a movie coming.
Take the time to get it ready. And then you've got the $2 million an episode budget like they did for season 5. Take the time to get it ready, get the product as you want it, and then release it.
And I think Dan Harmon will be in charge of that. He'll do fine with that. Anyways, transitioning World Cup.
Yay!
This is a touchy subject because me and Ben aren't really what you would call soccer fans.
Yeah, you are not soccer enthusiasts.
We're very touchy about soccer, but we can appreciate.
We're patriotic, and we will root for the U.S.
We can appreciate the World Cup. It is a great
whether it's curling,
world event.
whether it's soccer. Mm-hmm. Whether it is spear throwing, we'll root for the U.S.
Yeah. And the World Cup in particular, The World Cup.
I think that's javelin.
Yeah,
That's
close
not
enough.
spear throwing.
Anyway, but the World Cup, it's a great world event, and, we can both appreciate the U.S.
Hey.
in this type of thing. And, the U.S., they gave it a hell of a run this year.
They did.
got out of the group of death. They took Belgium to extra time, even though, they played like shit except for Tim Howard.
That reminds me. I'm going to bring this up, so keep making your points. I want to see if I favorite this.
Tim Howard, he turned into a global icon overnight.
He did
much.
what Landon Donovan did in 2010.
Exactly.
He's now a household name in soccer.
Yeah.
And my favorite part about Tim Howard is that he is the Premier League, which is Europe's big league, like the most well-known league probably over here. Like La Liga is a big one, and the Bundesliga in Germany. Like those are all well-known ones. But Premier League is England's, and that's where the most American players play outside the U.S., it seems like. And that's the one where my favorite team, Manchester City, is a part of. Tim Howard has been in the Premier League for 11 years, which seems unprecedented by American players' standards. Like, most American players do not last over there for very many seasons at all. And Howard has been not only has been in the Premier League for 11 seasons, he's been with elite teams. Like, he was with Manchester United.
Successful teams.
Yeah, he was with Manchester United, which seems to be the one Premier League team that everybody knows.
They're the Yankees.
It's the
they're the
Yankees
Yankees of
Yeah.
soccer, really. And then now he's with Everton, which is, I would say, Everton is kind of like the Green Bay Packers in a way, in that they're more like they're perennially like in contention. They're not necessarily
like all
always
the time?
They're not always a lockdown favorite for the title of the league, but you can always count on them being in the argument towards the end of the season because
they're like the San Antonio Spurs.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Like they don't have the same championship history as the San Antonio Spurs, at least in recent memory.
But the Spurs, how
you
many straight years have the Spurs been in the playoffs at least?
Ridiculous.
It's like
amount,
98.
That's beside the point.
Yeah, so you can they're just one of those teams that you can always count on them at least being in the discussion, being in a league that has 20 teams. They're usually in the top 6.
Right.
So, and he's been their keeper for, I want to say, 7 years now.
I mean,
how
Tim
old
Howard,
is he? How old is he?
He is 36, 37.
That's
the game he played, what did he have? 16 saves?
He had 16 saves, which is the most in the World Cup.
Recorded history.
Yeah.
Which days, a century ago, right?
Yeah,
half century ago.
I think it's at least since 1950
Yeah.
is where it...
Yeah, which I mean, and I know I only got to watch the second half of it because I was working, but I mean, some of the saves he was making were just ridiculous. And I mean,
he'd throw his whole body.
Oh, I mean, he had an incredible game, and it's just unfortunate that the rest of the team couldn't come through with him. But
until the second extra time.
But
I'm
me,
gonna remember Tim Howard as a tragic hero.
Yeah.
That's
because
very true.
he did incredible feats, he had incredible saves, but it was all for naught because of how horribly bad the rest of his team defensively was. He's like Chandler. He's like Tyson Chandler, amongst a bunch of short Ty Lawson type point guards.
His teammates in that game, I don't even want to say that they were defensively bad because they were defensively uninspired. I'd say it's more. They just didn't.
I just saw multiple times they weren't sprinting back to try and.
I mean, they just played 3 tough-ass games in the group of death. They were worn down. They played their second game against Portugal was in, I believe it was Manaus, which in the World Cup, the 6 teams that played there in the World Cup, or I think at least in the first 2 games there, they went on to lose their next match, like in the first 4 games. So I mean, Manaus was the hot box. It was just a bad thing. But I retweeted this. We mentioned the group of death and U.S. soccer. It was a rant on an English soccer podcast. You might have read this, you might not have. I don't know, but I retweeted it. It said, One of the panelists was joking about the "I believe that we will win" chant, doing it in a stereotypical American accent, and one of the other panelists stopped him and said, This is in England. This is an English soccer podcast. Mm-hmm. He said, "No, I'm not having that. We love to make fun of the Americans and their soccer ball and how they don't know anything about the sport, and everyone gets a good laugh at them. But they beat us in the group 4 years ago, and now they've gotten through a group with Germany, Portugal, and Ghana. And we got 1 point in our group, which had, if I remember correctly, Costa Rica, Uruguay, and Italy. Which is no small feat either.
Especially with Italy.
But England is England.
They're England.
And then, we got 1 point in our group. 1. The U.S. is still playing, and right now the English need to shut up and maybe try to figure out why they are better at this sport than we are. And not only that, everyone mocks the Americans for being stupid about soccer, but if you talk to anyone in Brazil, they will tell you that no one has more fans there than the States, and no one chants louder than the American Outlaws. They've got Teddy Roosevelt down there leading cheers. So I don't want to hear this crap about the U.S. anymore. They are part of the World Cup furniture now, and we all better accept it.
Yeah, and, going along with that, we are not a soccer country by any means.
No.
Every nation that goes to the World Cup, their best athletes are playing soccer, except the United States.
And it's their
Our
biggest
best athletes,
sport.
they're playing baseball, they're playing basketball, they're playing football. Mm-hmm. Soccer is like the... Even hockey comes before soccer.
Probably not even top 5.
And not even top 5,
a lot of it
probably.
has to do with the fact that in Major League Soccer here in the U.S., it's kind of like a bastardized version of every league elsewhere in the world.
Oh,
and not a lot
same sort of format.
It's either for a lot of up and coming soccer players who can't quite hack it in the European leagues yet, or maybe never will.
That's why there's a bunch of young kids usually.
Or they are past their prime Premier Leaguers or European Leaguers who want one final paycheck and
keep getting them
and
checks.
The publicity, because you look at your David Beckhams, and even more recently, this name will mean nothing to you, but Jermaine Defoe, who's with Toronto now, he was a very famous Premier League striker for years, and now he plays for Toronto, and that's just another example of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, the numbers don't lie, and this U.S.-Belgium watched by 22 million people in the U.S., which beat the World Series and the NBA Finals. And
Whoa.
I heard stuff about how the NBA Finals and the World Series encompass only 2 teams, and it's if you don't care about those teams, you don't still watch. It's I don't want to hear that, because I'm pretty sure everybody still watches those because they're established sports in the U.S. and you still care about them.
Yeah. Were those ratings specifically just for the U.S.?
It was USA Belgium, specifically that game.
Ratings, okay.
Yeah.
For just those 2 countries, or for just the U.S.?
It said in the U.S.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure how they figured that out, just between the bars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If they count a specific
number of people
I don't
per
know.
bar.
I feel like that's it's definitely rounded off, and it's probably embellished a little bit. But even still, I feel like they wouldn't say that it was more than the World Series and more than the NBA Finals if that wasn't accurate.
Yeah, and going back to we don't watch World Series or whatever. I NBA Finals, I watch every single game.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that between the 3 of us, we
Super
managed
Bowl.
to watch every game.
Super Bowl, it doesn't matter what's going on. The Super Bowl, I am always gonna watch a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, World Series, not as much. I'm not really into baseball anymore, but there are a lot of baseball fans who will watch it, even though no one's in it
It's
that
true.
they like. I mean...
And I had the argument with I saw the argument on Twitter the other day about how with the U.S. it was because it's the United States of America, everybody cares about it. It's kind of like what you guys were saying about how you might not like soccer, but you're patriotic.
Exactly.
And you watch it for that reason.
Yeah.
And it's so that for that reason, it's it beats out the NBA Finals, which only have 2 cities in it. But
it's not representing the whole country.
Yeah.
It's
But
not something
to me,
everyone can fall under.
it's still ridiculous to say that, because again, those are established sports with huge fan bases like the nation over, and soccer's still growing, and so yeah, it's the whole country, but it's still soccer, and even still, people will watch the game and get on social media and be like, I love the U.S., but soccer really just sucks, and it's like, then don't try. Like, if you're not gonna enjoy trying to watch this for the sake of America, then don't talk about it. Don't
just
watch
let
it.
everyone else enjoy.
I'm not a soccer fan by any means, but I mean, I enjoyed watching the World Cup games that I did watch.
Well,
I mean, they were very entertaining.
They were.
This was the best. I mean, I've only watched 2 World Cups worth of games because in 2006 I wasn't really paying attention, but in 2010 I watched and it was pretty good. But in 2014 it was amazing. Like the amount of games that we've seen, there's been
There's been
drama.
so many more goals, haven't there? Wasn't there like a 20 plus?
I was something like that. I don't remember the specific number,
More
but there
than
was
the previous.
Well, and not only that, but there was a lot of. Well, it helped that like the first 6 days there were no draws, which really I feel like that's one of the biggest things that
you have me there when
there's like if a game ends in a tie, like the Portugal USA game ended 2-2, and I could just like at the bar that I was watching it at, it felt like a loss to everybody that cared about
because
soccer
of the way it
happened. But then there were a lot of people on social media too that were just like, "Oh, this game ended in a tie. That's bullshit." And it's like, okay, that's how soccer normally is, and soccer is one of those sports that works on a point system.
Yeah, it
like
does.
hockey.
Yeah,
Hockey
it
works
does,
on a point system too. And that's another thing that people can't get around. Is like it's based on
They don't
points.
see the bigger picture.
It's not based
about
on,
one game.
Yeah, it's not about one game. It's not based on standing necessarily. I mean, your standings count, but your standings are what get you points.
Right.
Just like in hockey.
Well,
So,
I mean, it's such a different foreign concept from the NBA, the NFL, the MLB.
and scoring.
And
Those
scoring,
standings,
yeah,
Scoring
it's so
is
much
everything.
those standings are so much more straightforward, and there's no reading between the lines.
No,
with the
there's
stats, win, loss.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of the big 3 or 4 sports, the stats usually tell the whole story, and in soccer, that's just not true.
No.
The stats don't tell the story at all. I
No.
mean, you have to watch a game to fully grasp what happened in that game.
And therein lies the problem, is because a lot of people just don't like watching the full game of soccer. Because
I mean, it's tough. I'm gonna
it's-
admit. I mean, I enjoyed the World Cup and everything, but that's tough to follow the whole.
It's tough when you don't care, and I mean, it legitimately like as much as I enjoyed the 2010 World Cup, and I've talked about this on this podcast.
Right.
Like I didn't enjoy soccer until the 2011 Premier League season, the way it ended with just the insane high amount of drama that there was. Like you need something like that to pull you in, and that's what finally pulled me in, was seeing like that unbelievable amount of drama, like at the top of the table, like how the Premier League champion was decided literally in the last 5 minutes of the last game of the season. Like it came, and even this year it was still pretty similar to that. Like it was like if Manchester City, if I'm remembering correctly, like if they won, they would be the champs. If they drew but Liverpool won by like 8 goals, they would win on goal differential. If Liverpool won and Manchester City lost, then Liverpool would be the champs. So there was a lot riding on those 2 games in the last game of the season. And just the way it all went down was it wasn't quite as dramatic because Manchester City, they just needed to win and they had their game well in hand. Yeah. So, yeah, it was really interesting, and you need that situation to pull you in.
Yeah, you do.
So,
yeah.
Last thing. Before we should probably move on to something else.
yeah, I can talk about that forever.
In your expert soccer opinion, who do you think's winning the whole thing?
Yes,
Well,
Tyler, I want to hear
first, before I get to that, I just have to say, hats incredibly off to Costa Rica.
Hell yeah, go Ticos!
Yeah,
Go Ticos!
Best performance by a Costa Rican team in World Cup history, and they came within 2 penalty kicks of advancing on to a semifinals that includes Brazil, Germany, and Argentina, who were the 3 favorites to win at the beginning of the World Cup. And then you could have had Costa effing Rica. And it's like, are you
crashing the party?
Serious?
Yeah.
Like, they
That's
made it out of a
incredible.
tough group where they were like a 10% favorite. Then they beat Greece on penalty kicks. And then it's just madness how far they got.
Anyway,
So,
expert
yes,
opinion. Let's
expert
go.
opinion.
Who wins?
Who I think is going to win? Well, now that Neymar's out with the fractured vertebra,
Yeah,
which sucks.
That's just too bad.
I think that kills Brazil.
Yeah.
I think Germany beats Brazil and gives Brazil their first defeat on their home soil in like 50 years. But only for that reason. And it's not like they're losing to a crappy team either.
It's also in the semifinals.
But it wouldn't surprise me if Brazil won because they're still really good.
They are Brazil.
But Germany's
they're
very
still on their home
excellent.
turf. That's the difference. That's a big difference too.
And Argentina is very much in enemy territory. So I think, and they have not looked good. So I think that after all is said and done, it's going to be a European finals. And I think that I'm going to go ahead and say that the Netherlands take it.
Really?
Wow.
Is that just because you don't like Germany, or is it because you actually?
Is that your?
Is that the
genuine analysis?
I think because I think Brazil without Neymar, I read this today. 5 out of their last 10 goals have been scored by defenders or midfielders instead of their forwards. So they've they've depended on them. And Argentina has looked flat all tournament, despite having the best player in the world in Lionel Messi.
Yeah. And Messi's gone off this.
He
World
has.
Cup.
He finally had a good World Cup. But they also lost one of their best players in Di Maria.
Yeah.
So I think that the South Americans exit in the semifinals, and it's Germany, Netherlands, and I'm going to say Netherlands win. Based on nothing other than I don't want the Germans to win.
There you go. That's what I was thinking.
So yeah, I'll go Netherlands.
There you go, people.
Hey, I can.
We'll
take
be
that.
back. We'll be back in a week to see.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
actually, it'll be 2 weeks.
No, it'll be
because
2
you're
because
on
we're going on
vacation.
vacation. That's
Unless we like.
We'll be back 2
That's
weeks and
fast.
Anyways.
assess your predictions.
But
Yes.
anyway, moving on. Let's move on to our final kind of big topic of the night: NBA free agency. The big story here.
7-8 days in.
7-8 days in.
I don't
we
want
got
the Decision 2.0.
Yeah, we
There's
got.
no way it's gonna happen.
Well, the biggest thing here is LeBron. You know,
Specifically.
originally it seemed like he's gonna re-sign with the Heat, no doubt.
Along with
Bosh and
Chris
Wade,
Bosh and
Bosh
Wade.
and Wade opt out. He opts out. It seems like they're reworking all these deals, and their first. Oh my God! Oh nope, never mind. Anyways,
Baseball.
they're
sorry.
too big. They're two big targets. Gortat and who was their other one?
Kyle Lowry.
Kyle Lowry. They re-signed.
Right off the bat. Well, see, right off the bat, they re-signed.
they
pretty quick.
re-signed.
They were like
pretty
the
quickly.
first 2 guys that were off the market.
Besides
And then-
Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, and ever since then,
who never made it to the market.
Yeah, exactly. and ever since then, it's kind of been gaining steam that LeBron could possibly be coming back, and it's kind of been building up. And then I know
boiled
last
over last night.
Last night it really boiled over. You know, there's the plane. Dan Gilbert's plane going to South Florida, and then
that
Chris
he was
Broussard
supposedly
tweets.
on.
Chris Broussard tweets that he thinks Cleveland's the favorite now to land LeBron. And so it's just there's just this mountain of chaos, and we still don't know what's happening with Carmelo Anthony yet.
I think it's
Bosh could be on the outs also. So
Because
I mean,
of
with the
Houston deal.
Rockets.
it's a huge just mess
Honestly,
of chaos
I think
right now.
I think Bosh going to Houston would be an excellent move.
Oh, that's great for him.
I was
That's
talking
an
with Chase.
excellent-
I was
Perfect
talking
place
with
for him,
Chase
really.
earlier today. He's with that Heat team. He's been the one who's had to sacrifice his game the most the last 4 years.
It'd
If
be
I was
amazing
Bosh-
to see him like reinvent himself.
It
at this
really
stage
would
of his
be.
career
If I was Bosh,
in Houston.
I'd have to really start thinking. Maybe I should start thinking about myself just for once, just this one time.
He's got his championships. Go somewhere.
He's got 2 rings. He can go reinvent his game, or or enhance it with having Dwight Howard as his center.
Yeah, and think about that.
Down low.
That's the first big man combo that could be super deadly in a long time.
Now, before we go forward,
yes,
I have to touch on this. Isn't it funny how Bosch, who was in Toronto, then goes to Miami, and now going to Houston, would not be, in my opinion, vilified at all for making that move. Whereas if with LeBron, who was in Cleveland, then goes to Miami, then goes back to Cleveland, how vilified he would be if he comes back to Cleveland. Because it's... I know it's different with Bosch because he was somewhere, then he went somewhere else, then now he's going somewhere else. But he did the same thing LeBron did. He went somewhere specifically to get rings, and now it's like, all right, I'm going elsewhere now.
And he almost gets a pass.
Here's the difference. Yeah. Obviously, LeBron is...
Well, I know exactly what the difference is.
Much better player.
LeBron's a better player.
And LeBron
he was the savior of
Cleveland.
Yes. Bosch was a great player for
that happened to play for the Toronto
for an average Toronto team.
And
he never... I mean, how many times did he lead them to the playoffs?
Was it?
Like two or three times.
I don't even know.
And they never won it. I don't think they ever won a series with him.
The reason, the biggest reason we cast LeBron in a different light as fans or basketball society or whatever is because when we look at the great ones that ESPN and everyone compares him to, like MJ, Magic,
they were lifers.
Bird, they were lifers.
Well, and here's the thing.
But to be fair, here's the thing I don't get: Shaq, Kareem. Who else was I thinking of?
Moses Malone.
Malone. There's some of the greatest players who have moved teams.
Yeah,
Malone. Mailman.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, technically, went to Lakers. That was late in the game, but I mean, those are greats. I
guess perhaps the biggest difference: social media.
That is true. Also,
I seriously think this free agency is crazier than 2010, simply because every day I get on Twitter and I see 50 people tweeting, "Oh, LeBron's coming back," and then 50 people tweeting, "You guys are dumb. There's no way he's leaving." And it's just a mix of so much discussion compared to even 2010 when. We haven't even seen the moves yet, and I feel like it's already crazy.
And here's kind of one of the big things going back to like why LeBron has been like so looked down upon because of that Miami decision. And I'm gonna go to Bill Simmons on this in the Book of Basketball, our boy.
Yeah.
One of the things he writes
to get him on the podcast.
in his pyramid chapters about LeBron. He has LeBron ranked as 20, but this is back in 2010.
Yeah.
It's probably
it has always been like an unspoken law when it comes to basketball, like especially when it comes down to like a pickup game. When you're picking teams, the two best like wing players don't go and team up on everybody else. It's like, okay, like we have LeBron and we have say MJ. You two, you're not on the same team. You're splitting up and you're divvying out teams. That's kind of always been the law
because
in the NBA. Now, if coincidence happens where Kareem and Magic end up on the same team, two alpha dogs, two of the greatest players ever. Shit happens, okay? It happens. It's coincidence.
Yeah, Shaq and Kobe ended up on the same team.
Shaq and Kobe,
Michael, Scotty,
Shaq left
Westbrook,
through free agency,
Durant.
but Kobe was drafted.
Yeah.
It's never been three guys, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh.
All just came to the same place.
Yeah, and ever since that happened, the NBA didn't think that could happen, and ever since it's happened, the NBA has been trying vigorously to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Arguable.
I think they really have been, honestly.
The owners are trying to prevent
that. Exactly. And that's one of the reasons.
But the players love the free agency. What else are you gonna call it?
That's where I guess the game is kind of changing now. It's more that buddy thing, and we want to team each other rather than I want to beat this guy.
It used to be there's 5 players on the court, but psychologically it's mono-e-mono.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference, I think. Yeah, it's a culture change, and I mean it's not that it's wrong. it's just different.
Yeah.
And that's how society in general acts a lot of times, is when there's something different and they're not trying to react to it, they dislike it.
True.
But
What
back to psychological
what do you guys think?
philosophies.
Let's talk about this for a little bit. What do you think about the idea of LeBron coming back to Cleveland? Like, if he would come back, what would your guys' thoughts be on that? I know my position personally, like, I'm not gonna say I don't want LeBron back. Like, it goes through my mind. I miss having LeBron in Cleveland. You know, it was fun when LeBron was in Cleveland. We won a lot of games. He was incredible. I mean, I'm not gonna say no, I don't want him, but there's still bitter feelings there. And like, nobody
understands why.
No,
I love. That's my favorite thing about everyone else on Earth is nobody gets why we're so frustrated and still are so frustrated by this.
No,
and it's like
really
I'd love to ask everyone in Chicago what it would feel like if Derrick Rose or even
no Michael Jordan. Say Michael Jordan.
Well, even I'm trying to think current generation though. Like maybe a better one would be if Durant left Oklahoma City.
I think that would be the biggest.
I think that's the best. That's easily the best comparison to this.
Right, because small city.
Because a small city, and he's done so much for that team and establishing it. If he just decided, you know what, I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna go to Houston
with Harden and Dwight Howard.
Or I'm gonna go play with the Clips with
CP3
and Blake Griffin. Like and just leave. I mean, the Thunder wouldn't be terribly off as the Cavs were, because they'd still have Westbrook and Ibaka.
I'm betting if Durant would leave, if that ever happens in the future, Westbrook would leave.
He'd definitely consider it. But at the very least, like, he'd still be there for a season or two or whatever, or at least in theory he would be. He might not demand a trade instantly. But that's the most apt comparison.
And
even that
can't compare, because LeBron, he is homebred.
He was from here.
I know it's not.
Oklahoma's a neighbor to Texas, which is where KD went to school.
And I know,
close. It's close.
But I know, like, Cleveland isn't Akron. I know he's from Akron. He isn't from Cleveland. But Cleveland, like, that is a home state basketball team. He is homebred. We got him in the first round.
It's still the same region of a state.
Yeah,
Northeast
Ohio. And that just magnifies it even more. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that right there is the whole reason that he's even considering coming back here, is because it is his home.
Yeah, I'm sure if he...
I think he's mostly trying to decide this on the standpoint of what team am I going to be able to win with right away.
Yeah.
I think all he has on the mind is championships. But he also loves the prospect of coming back home.
Yeah.
He does like
the
that
prodigal
idea.
son, the savior returns.
Don't use the prodigal son. That's not...
That's what
I hate when
I'm
people
not
call
using
that.
that.
I hate when people call it that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I can't stand it. Prodigal son, he goes away and he messes up big time. And his whole life is trash.
Yeah, he didn't
LeBron's life is not trash at all. He's been to the finals the last 4 years. All 4 years he's been in Miami. It's not the correct label. Sorry, I'm being nitpicky.
Yeah. And you know, as a Cleveland fan, if he did come back, even through the bitter feelings, you'd be obligated to cheer for him. I'd have to cheer for him. I'm a Cleveland
because
sports
we're
fan.
hardcore.
We need a championship,
okay? I had this discussion with somebody earlier tonight, and it went like this. If LeBron comes back, I don't feel like any potential championship that we get, I don't feel like it's going to be tarnished. I feel like it would be a bit like we took the easy way out. A little bit of selling your soul. Yeah. That's actually the way I put it earlier tonight. Is like it feels kind of like we sold our soul to the devil in order to get an opportunity to get a championship, was by bringing him back in. But the fact remains, if LeBron comes back and wins the Cavs, and more specifically the city of Cleveland, a pro sports championship, the first one in it's 50 years at this point. It's 50 years. It is 50 years at this point. If he brings them the first pro sports championship in 50 years, I'm gonna be thrilled.
Oh, same here.
I'll take off work to go to the parade.
Mhm.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I will be there with a Cavs jersey I might have bought that morning. I don't care.
I would dig
I
up.
want a pro sports championship in the city of Cleveland, Ohio.
Mhm.
And at this point, I don't care how we get
It's,
it.
and
no,
it's not out of an affection for LeBron. It's for the city of Cleveland.
It's exactly
city of
that. It is
Cleveland.
an affection for the city of Cleveland, a city that has deserved a winner
Right.
and has been so close
Don't
over the past
man.
15 years.
Pain.
And
Just saying that
the
brings
the
back
one I was
painful
talking
memories.
about tonight, the one that everybody seems to forget the most. Like everybody, when we go to Cleveland sports championships, we always tend to linger on 95 and specifically 97.
Game 7.
Two
But the
outs.
one that I
2 outs
feel
away.
like everybody overlooks is 2007. Not the Cavs,
The Indians.
the
yes.
Indians.
I totally
They were
agree.
up 3-1. That's the one that
They
I
had
remember
a
the most
s-
because I went to ALDS game 1 against the Yankees where they won 12-3.
Was that the
Uh-huh.
fly game?
No,
that was
the
that was
next
game
one.
2.
That was the next
Yeah.
one.
That
That's right.
the 12-3 game. My favorite lasting image from that was where CC Sabathia threw a pitch that made Derek Jeter swing and miss so awkwardly he fell to
Yeah.
one knee. It was and the whole that was actually the game that LeBron was at and he got booed out of the building.
Yeah, because he was wearing a
hat.
Yankees hat.
Yep,
Yeah.
that was the
Yep.
game I was at.
And
But in
Yeah, go
sorry
ahead.
to interrupt, but the point for that was
We had a
for me
sweep
that was the
going on.
worst because we were up 3-1 on Boston with a chance to close Game 5 out
At home.
in Cleveland. CC Sabathia versus Josh Beckett couldn't do it. Go back to Boston, blow the next
No,
two.
CC didn't even play that. He didn't even pitch
I
that
thought
game.
he was Game 5.
No, they saved
it
him for Game
Fausto?
6. It was no. They saved Fausto for Game 7 and CC for Game 6. I think they pitched. It was
This
either
is the
Westbrook
advantage of
or
having
Westbrook
The
or
computer
Bird.
access.
But yeah, I know
Game
what you mean.
5,
Beckett
2007
came in and was
ALCS.
lights out.
Yeah.
You know that's we had a sweep lined up in the World Series, no matter who we played. And
It
Kenny
was
Lofton.
CC.
It was CC.
It was CC
Was it CC?
Sabathia. CC
I thought he
gave
was
up
Game 6.
CC no. Game 6 was Fausto and Game 7 was Jake Westbrook.
Okay, then I was wrong. But either way, you know, and still that year, Kenny Lofton came back to Cleveland.
He got the biggest
Yeah.
ovation of any player for the whole
of
team.
anyone. I mean, he was. It was perfect.
But the reason to me that one was the worst is because unlike in 1995 when the Indians were destined
Outclassed.
they were destined to get beat up by the Braves.
Yep.
In 1997, I don't know what happened there, but it's whatever. In 2007, if they beat the Red Sox at home, go on to the World Series, every single team, all 4 teams in the AL that came into the playoffs
Could have
that
Could
year,
have beat it.
could have beaten any 4
Yep.
teams in the NL in the
The
World
NL
Series.
was horrible
And it was
that year.
not even a debate.
No.
We would have gone to the World Series and
We would have swept them.
if we ended up playing the Rockies, we would have killed them. We would have beaten anybody that we faced in the NL that year because it was so weak and the
Yeah.
AL was so good. And that is for me the biggest the closest that well, it's not literally the closest that we got, but it looked the best.
Yeah.
Like
It was
and
the
it's the
best.
hardest
It was
to-
the best situation.
it was the best
had
situation
we
to
won.
be in.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
and so that's what, going back to it, I'm tired of being that close. I just want a championship
Yeah.
for the love of
We
God.
really yeah.
And, if Manziel pans out for the Browns and somehow brings them their first Super Bowl, despite being what he is.
Johnny Football, I will
Okay.
Remember him forever. I don't care.
I've told this to multiple people. I honestly not a big fan of him, but if he leads us to a playoff series, I'm fully on board.
Oh,
Whatever
definitely.
gets us there.
Anyway,
Whatever-
yeah.
I want Johnny Manziel to be our Tom Brady, the guy that everybody in the league loathes. But our city
we
loves
have
him.
him.
love
But
the
we have
crap
him,
out of
and
him.
we love him, and he gets us.
And they can't do anything
wins.
about it.
He-
Yep.
And that's what I want for Manziel, and that's what I wish that I could feel for LeBron. But I just don't.
No.
I don't have the same. I think that's it. That's what does it for me. I don't have the same passion towards him as a player now because he's so tarnished to me. Like
it's probably never repairable. At
no,
this
it's
point. But it's not that that's the worst thing in the world.
Him playing for my team,
Gotta
sign me up.
whatever. Yeah.
Awesome, love it. Him
Yeah.
winning for my team, even better. Him as a individual person, meh.
Whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a dude.
That's not the first Cleveland player I've thought that about either.
No, yeah, I mean, another perfect example is Manny Ramirez.
Oh, definitely.
Like,
Yeah.
he's a great baseball player.
He did great things in Cleveland.
He did great things, and he did great things in Boston. I would have loved to have had him back at any point. But he obviously never came. But that doesn't matter. But yeah, I just like as a person, like if he came back, I'd have been like, great, glad you're here. I still am just kind of like meh towards
whatever.
you. But
Yeah.
thanks for coming back to Cleveland.
Kind of like how when Tommy came back.
Tommy's
a different
people were
situation.
excited.
Again, Tommy's a
is
different story
different.
because I feel like he wanted to stay in Cleveland. He did eventually leave. He left for money. There's no debating that.
Yeah.
But he seemed legitimately upset to not still be in
He was
Cleveland.
torn.
At least at first.
He seemed really torn.
Yeah, it was a huge decision for him to make. And I mean, every single person in baseball I've heard say he's like the nicest guy that you will meet.
Yeah.
And
He's
I
one
think
of the
that's
coolest dudes,
why he reacted that way, because he legitimately loved Cleveland
And felt horrible for it.
Felt horrible for leaving, but at that point in his career, it was a business decision, and that's why everybody
championship too.
that's why everybody respected Jim Thome and loved him when he came back a few seasons ago.
Yeah.
Like I was at that game at the game where he checked in to play like one
Third
out
base.
at third base for the first time since
96,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah.
And-
so
and
long
I mean
ago.
the ovation that he got from the Cleveland crowd was insane. Like it was absolutely insane, and it's like that's what I feel like LeBron thinks he's gonna get,
And you
and
know, for
what he
some
hopes
people,
he's
it
and
is
he
gonna
like
hopes
get.
he's gonna get,
Yeah.
and quite frankly, he might get.
He might get,
But I don't think he deserves it.
No, I don't either. Especially, I get once again, despite all the don't go to Wade's team, that whole alpha dog, whatever. I can understand why he left, but you go on national TV and you
do what
basically
you
take
did.
a shit on the city of Cleveland. Like,
Yeah,
No, see, that's every time in free agency he's gone into with the mindset he's looking for the best basketball situation. And with the decision he made, one misstep that really blew it up.
he went to the best basketball
No, it was the best. It was the best
There's
basketball decision.
There's no debating that. It's just
And
how he presented.
I didn't blame him at all. And this time around too, if he comes back,
I'll be honored
not
that
a
he
huge
thinks
fan
it's
of
the
him.
best
Not a huge
situation.
fan of him personally. Huge fan of how unbelievably athletic and gifted he is as a basketball player. Might be the most gifted basketball player to ever play the
maybe
game.
physically gifted, yes.
Yeah.
And he has gotten better mentally. At it,
Right.
too.
He's still not there, but he has.
It doesn't matter what team he chooses. Any team would take him.
Oh,
They
yeah,
would clear.
definitely.
They would clear all the cap space that they could to get him if he would want to come to their team. So, specifically, just as a Cleveland sports fan, it's the best basketball decision. I mean, it only
And
makes way too much sense.
Cleveland is at a point. We want a championship. I mean,
We've
it has
been
so
we've
long.
been at a point for a long time.
Yeah,
Yes, we
like
have.
This last
We need a
decade's been
championship.
torment, though.
It has.
I mean, there's a thing. It seems like every decade or so, but this one was so devastating. Not only on a competitive level, but culturally and socially, because it's still something we're talking about 4 years later.
Yeah.
Like it just happened yesterday. A lot of times.
And that's how it feels to us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's.
Did you get you didn't give your official take on LeBron? I don't think.
I kind of just did right there. That's my take.
Okay.
It's the best basketball decision. I don't know why the Cavs wouldn't be trying to go after him.
Yeah.
Not a huge fan of him personally or whatever. He's not one of my favorite players by any means, but he is incredible to watch, and I admire his gifts.
Okay.
I mean, Still not. I don't know how I'd put it, bitter, or just put off.
It's just.
But
It just wouldn't be the same.
Lately, I haven't cared. I've just tried to subjectively watch games he's in.
Yeah.
As a basketball fan.
Okay, I guess one final question here, and then we'll either move on to something or just be done. Because I know we don't have a lista. We're at an hour. So, one final question, and I know you guys will be able to answer it better than I do because you pay more attention to the NBA.
The basketball.
The basketball.
What is Plan B?
If we don't get him?
Yes.
Oh man, Are
you saying if we don't get him this year?
No, if we don't get him.
If we ever,
because
I was gonna say if we don't get him this year, Plan B is plan for next year.
Well, I don't think that there will be another chance. Quite frankly,
Really?
At least I don't think there will be another chance where it will matter for us winning a championship. I'll put it that way, because I don't think that he signs a contract that he gets out of until he is past his prime.
See, I think if he does elect to stay with Miami, I think he would do a 1 or 2 year deal.
Yeah, I feel like it'd be 1 or 2.
Anywhere else, any other team
he's signing a 4-year contract, and he could be out of his prime by the time he's done with that.
I mean, he's on the brink now, and the only reason I say that is because he has so many minutes on his body. At this point,
he's got a lot of miles.
He could be. We may not even know yet, but he could be beginning to break down.
Yeah, that's the one thing that scares me as a Cavs fan is that he is going to break down in the next 2 years.
Well, think about this
completely.
I mean, he hasn't had a major injury.
Exactly. He has never had a major injury. Even Jordan had one. He had it early in his career.
Michael got it out of the way.
Yeah. He is due for one.
Kobe waited.
The city of Cleveland is due for an injury like that.
Of course, yeah.
No, they're not.
Let's
Josh
be
Gordon
honest.
Just got
let's be honest though.
ended.
That would be a Cleveland thing that would happen. Is he'd come back 3 games into the season?
Max money, and he suffers an ACL,
torn
an
ACL,
Achilles.
done for the season, never the same.
Yeah,
I mean that is something that would totally happen.
Laugh, cry, drink. The end.
Yeah, and that would be. That would be Cleveland, and that would be the sign that we're just never.
Yeah, that would be it.
That'd be horrible. Back to your question though. What Plan B? If they don't get LeBron,
and we'll just say in the instance of in a position where we can never acquire him again, where he's in a position to help us win.
So you're saying what else would we do in free agency this year?
This season,
I know Gordon Hayward's been.
We'll probably give Gordon Hayward an offer.
I would think.
Do you think we do that anyways if we get LeBron?
We'll see. If we get LeBron, I'm not sure if we have cap space unless we trade our roster. Yeah,
right, and we don't.
Kind of.
While we're still trying to get LeBron, we don't want to sign an offer sheet for Hayward because if he takes it, that potentially eats up some of our cap space that we wanted to get to LeBron. So we do not want to. We don't want to. The Cavs aren't going to try and sign anyone in the next week or so.
It's LeBron and then the field.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, if we don't get LeBron, I'm not sure much would change. Actually, we have a ton of guys on our roster already. They might just play it out a year, try to clear some pace for next year, try and get a free agent big man or something.
We might try to get another free agent.
Yeah, at this point, we have Kyrie, we have Wiggins, we still have Waiters. We could trade him for someone.
Jack.
I think honestly that's kind of our core.
Thompson, Varejao, Bennett, Zeller. I mean, we've got a good group of guys.
Yeah, we have a lot of young guys.
We might. Well, if there's no way we're ever going to get LeBron, we wouldn't try and trade for Kevin Love still, probably.
Okay, one more quick hypothetical because it's fun and because we just said it.
These are fun.
Hypotheticals are fun.
Anthony Bennett does not go number 1 to the Cavs. Who gets picked?
Who would we pick if we could redo it?
Yes.
Basically?
Yeah.
Nerlens, Noel, or Oladipo.
I was just thinking, personally, I'd go Oladipo.
I thought. Trust me, I thought this over. So many times.
We haven't seen Nerlens Noel play yet, just because he's been hurt, but I mean Oladipo looked really good in his rookie season.
He did.
Really good.
He
really
played great.
good as far as that rookie class goes.
Yeah, which was a notoriously weak class.
The only thing that would have cautioned me about Oladipo was he's an undersized shooting guard, and we already had an undersized starting point guard in our backcourt. I don't know how much more. That's why I love the Wiggins pick, because there's, I don't know if you've noticed, like in the NBA, they start doing this a lot now, where they'll have an undersized point guard, and then they'll throw their shooting guard onto the opponent's point guard to guard on defense, and then they'll hide the undersized point guard on, whoever the odd shooting guard is on the other team. Or vice versa. They do it both ways. So I feel like Wiggins is going to be able to make up for Kyrie defensively in the backcourt a little bit.
Which is huge.
And honestly,
with Oladipo, there's no way you could do that. You'd have two, and even with Dion Waiters, when they're both in the game, they're both undersized.
Yeah, it's
which
true.
it was frustrating to watch the way they played, because they couldn't do anything. Their bodies just weren't big enough to handle defensive pressure.
Well, here's another hypothetical I'd throw at you. I'd go back to 2 drafts ago. I wouldn't draft Waiters. I'd take Harrison Barnes.
Yes.
And then say somehow we get the lottery pick the next year. Take Oladipo. We have Barnes as our 3-man. Oladipo fits right into that.
We managed to mess up 2 out of 4 drafts where we had
Grant
picks,
managed
where
to
we
mess
had
up.
where we had picks
Chris
in the
Grant
top 5.
specifically.
3 drafts ago, I'm not sure I would have taken Tristan Thompson at number 4 even. I mean, he's a rotation guy.
He's turned into a decent enough player, but at 4.
But a number 4 pick, no, not really. I mean, he switched the hand he shoots with.
He still doesn't know what he's shooting with.
At the very least,
left-handed, now he's
Kyrie
right-handed.
out.
Yeah, I mean, Kyrie
So
Irving,
far.
that's the one we got. But I mean, he hasn't won 35 games in a season yet. And I know his teams haven't been great.
Yeah,
and I know.
shite.
I say
His
that all the
teams have been
time.
terrible.
I say that all the time when people argue, "Oh yeah, Kyrie's a superstar." I'm like, let's wait till his winning percentage is over .300. But he has had been accompanied by some pretty crappy drafted players.
The closest thing that he's had to an asset is Verajao every season, and he manages to get hurt by December.
Yep.
Yeah, and Kyrie, he finally has Wiggins. I mean, I think even if we don't get LeBron, this is the year we got to do something. I mean, we gotta make the playoffs or something.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they said last year too.
I know that's what we said last year, but last year we picked Anthony Bennett.
This is the other thing.
The draft sucks. We have Andrew Wiggins now. We can build around.
The other thing is too that we've got a new GM and a new coach, and I think from what I've read, I wasn't thrilled about our new coach hire at first, but from what I've heard so many people say good things about him, about how over in Europe. He was one of the best coaches, apparently, in the European League.
GM and new coach at the Cavs. New GM and new coach at the Browns.
Yeah.
Terry Francona in charge at the Indians.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I'm
feels
okay with
like
that look.
the day is
Refreshing.
finally starting to be sunny in Cleveland.
Yeah,
that's the one
kind
thing,
of been
though.
how it's been going lately. It kind of looks like things kind of are turning
Everybody
around.
manages to just throw cracks at the front offices, but it's like if you're looking at the front office for all 3 of these places now, they really seem to finally have things.
Yeah, and
on paper,
Good head attached to the
and
body.
obviously for 2 of the 3, we haven't seen it in play because we haven't seen the Cavs with this new regime yet.
That's
and
why
we haven't seen the
why,
Browns with this new regime yet.
That's why if I'm LeBron, that's the one thing I'm skeptical on is you have a fresh GM and a fresh coach who have never been at those positions in the league, and then you turn around and you do have Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. But to be fair, Eric Spoelstra started out just the same way 4 years ago.
Yeah.
But he still had Pat Riley. I think that's the huge difference in why LeBron is going into a meeting with him in the next few days is because Riley, I'm sure, has more cards to play.
And but looking back at the Cavs, though, the last 2 drafts a Cleveland team has had have been great. The NFL draft, I think we did.
They've been exciting
as good
for
as
Cleveland
we could possibly
fans.
do. We got Manziel at 22, and we got a cornerback we needed.
It's
and a first-round pick for next year.
And a first-round pick for next year. And then we didn't do anything stupid with our NBA pick. We drafted Andrew Wiggins.
It's sad but exciting.
It is
It's
exciting.
sad that that's the most exciting thing that we had all season.
But
in
it is
both
exciting.
Of those respective
I'm
sports.
only worried right now just about the whole Josh Gordon situation.
Yeah, the Josh Gordon situation is a little.
It's
Do you think we should release him?
I think.
I think that we should do what Jacksonville did with Justin Blackman, which is maybe not to this extreme, but basically to say rehab or release. It's your choice. Figure it out. Because Blackman's out for he got banned for a year like in week 12 last year, so he's out until at least week 12 this year. But I mean, if he's in rehab, he might not give a damn about coming back. But Gordon's at the very least at this point, not officially, but I mean, he's not doing himself any favors. You got to believe he's out for the 2014 season.
Oh, definitely.
It's
over
a slam dunk at this point. But if he doesn't go into rehab and he doesn't care about going into rehab, then you got to release him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's as simple as that.
Think, I wouldn't. I've heard multiple people say they should just release him right now. Just cut the tie or whatever.
No.
But you do not want to
talent.
let that talent off the leash that fast.
It'd be one thing if he was like
be personal with him, help him with his rehab and stuff. Be an organization that supports its players. And Josh Gordon isn't the only one who's going to remember that.
I like also
or see that.
And
if he comes back and he's great, that's a good investment.
I really love and appreciate that Donald Driver wants to reach out to him and try and help him. Like that's from a dude who had literally nothing to do with the Cleveland Browns organization ever. He was simply a wide receiver and a well-respected athlete in the NFL.
And person in general.
Yeah. And he wants to reach out to Josh Gordon to try and mentor him and help him through this and get him some help. Like that is an unprecedented level of class in a profession where, quite frankly, you don't see it ever.
You don't see that, no. And a lot of players like across teams like that.
It's kind of like what Cecil Shorts is doing with Justin Blackman. And
same sort of thing.
It's exactly the same thing. Like he's the one that like reached out to Blackman multiple times. He even reached out to Gordon, from what I've come to understand, and wanted to told him that like he's here for him. He wants to get him. He wants to help him. He wants to be there to talk. Like if they don't want to go to rehab, he wants to get them. And I mean, I liked Cecil Shorts already because he went to Mount Union, so he's like an Ohio guy.
Yeah.
And on top of that, he's just a good dude that's in the league.
It's almost like he's their sponsor.
Yeah,
he's almost
in a
sort
way
of stepping up in that same sort of way, as making sure he's got their back.
Yeah,
and their support.
So hopefully
that's great.
Hopefully that works out.
Yeah, hopefully that'll pan out.
Well,
and good conversation.
Yes.
I think that'll wrap up our episode tonight. We got a good hour and
ending.
15 minutes. Yeah. So,
pretty chill.
Well, thank you all
We'll
for
have the next one
us.
in like 2 weeks,
2
hopefully.
weeks, 2 weeks,
I'll hopefully have started a new job, and you guys will be back from vacation, so I don't know how...
So many things have changed.
I know, there's going to be a lot that'll hopefully have happened in the next 2 weeks, but
hopefully.
We'll see.
It's like our sign-off. We'll be in a whole new world.
Hey, how about we go hats off to our first Game of Thrones list podcast here.
No way! Is this the first Game of Thrones?
This is the first time we have not had Game
almost
of Thrones.
Oh God! If you'll make it.
And actually, we led off with that in every episode except for the Darkest Timeline.
Yeah.
Every other episode led off with it. So
it was a good jumping off point. We had something to consistently
talk
about.
Something that we need to talk about in 2 weeks, assuming that you guys have watched it. You need to watch
Leftovers. We've watched the first two.
I haven't watched the second one yet. I'm gonna watch that probably tonight or tomorrow.
We watched the first two last night.
We definitely plan on keeping up with Leftovers.
We can discuss that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that next week because we'll have like 4 episodes under the belt, and so we can actually, since it's a new show, we can.
And we still don't know a lot what's going on.
No,
I don't even know how to comment on a lot of it. I don't know how to describe it to people.
And hopefully we'll have at least for that one as well,
Yeah.
because this week was just a lot of conversation. We didn't have room for Elista, so.
No.
All right. Well, thank
Until
you all
next
for joining
time.
us. Until
Thanks,
next
guys.
time, this is us, the Geeks in Suits, signing off.
Audio
Later.
podcast.
Later.